Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a completely mind-bending, truly cinematic journey deep into an enigmatic underground archive. We're going to explore a massive philosophical concept based on our source material, and that is how humanity actually authors its own reality. So picture this breathtaking vision. We're stepping into the cosmic archive. It's this incredibly vast, symbolic repository hidden underground, where humanity's ultimate nature is revealed to us. And what we find out is that we aren't just rational creatures, we are fundamentally a storytelling organism. Guided by this wise figure known as the Archivist, we realize that our entire civilization is essentially a giant nervous system, constantly spinning narratives just to survive the sheer uncertainty of existence. And right as we enter, we're hit with this profound opening line from a forbidden book in the archive. It says, "The most dangerous stories are the ones that convince you they are not stories at all." That right there is our invitation for today's deep dive. It's challenging us to question literally everything we assume to be objective reality. I mean, are we just mistaking our inherited collective myths for absolute truth? Let's start with Section 1, The Room of Mirrors, Deconstructing the Self. Our journey from the micro to the macro really begins on a deeply personal level, looking at the adaptive masks we wear every single day. Stepping into this room of mirrors, the reflections you see don't just show your physical face. They show the specific survival narratives we constantly perform. You know, the achiever, the victim, the rebel, the skeptic. We see every single version of ourselves that we've constructed out of fear or hope or trauma. And when you're faced with all of these reflections, all these different masks and alternate unlived lives staring back at you, you are forced to ask a really piercing question about your core identity. Which one is actually real? Are you the person you pretend to be online? The one who never quite recovered from grief? Or maybe the one your parents expect you to be? To answer that, the Archivist provides an absolutely brilliant insight. The question is whether you've mistaken any single version for the entirety of who you are. So our deepest deception isn't even about lying to other people. It's confusing a single temporary story for our ultimate, complete self. We cast ourselves into these incredibly narrow roles, and we completely forget the vast, silent awareness that sits behind them. Okay, moving outward. Section 2, Shared Narrative, Reality Through Echoes. So expanding out from the individual psyche, we enter the Chamber of Echoes. Here, we see the incredible butterfly effect of our shared myths. Imagine a place where every word ever spoken by humanity hangs in the air. Those spoken words compound into beliefs. Beliefs become actions. Actions become history. And history becomes destiny. It's a step-by-step progression showing us that global events don't just happen out of nowhere. They are built from stories, and those stories literally become the invisible operating systems of entire nations and economies. But here's the fascinating part. Beneath all these colliding narratives and human echoes lies something called the observer. Now, this isn't a deity or some supercomputer. It's just a fundamental awareness. It's the capacity for experience itself, watching completely without judgment as human history unfolds. It's a reminder that, at the end of the day, humanity is just a single, somewhat bewildered species, staring into existence, asking, what even is this? Let's zoom out to the cosmic scale now. Section 3, Probability Engine, Architecture of Becoming. Prepare yourself for a total paradigm shift here. The future is not a place, it is weather. Think about how we try, and usually fail, to perfectly predict a rainy weekend. In that same way, we have to dismantle the whole idea of a fixed, predetermined human destiny. The future isn't some destination we are passively walking toward. It's actually a vast field of interacting, cascading forces. It's an architecture of becoming, where every single consequence generates even more consequences. This engine generates infinite branching timelines. We're talking millions, billions, trillions of potential futures, and they all exist simultaneously as possibilities. It completely reveals that our future is this vast field just waiting for observation and action. Sure, some branches glow a bit brighter because history has a certain momentum to it, but it proves that the future emerges from the interaction between our free will and that historical momentum. It absolutely refuses to be predicted perfectly. And that brings us to Section 4. Choice before choice, ultimate threshold. At this threshold, as all that probability collapses toward a single ancient wooden door, we really encounter the terrifying and beautiful realization of our own agency. Because our decisions don't actually start when the options appear right in front of us. No, they begin much, much earlier, deeply embedded in our unconscious assumptions. For example, an empire chooses expansion because it secretly harbors a fear of limitation. A scientist chooses inquiry based on a foundational belief that reality can actually be understood. The branching futures we get emerge directly from these hidden assumptions. That is the true source code running beneath our conscious choices. Looking at the immense mechanism of this dreaming engine, we can clearly see two very powerful currents at play. Human civilization is constantly navigating this massive tension. On one side, we have our intense desire for predictable control, order, efficiency, eliminating all uncertainty. And on the other side, we have our fundamental need for creative freedom, emergence, and exploration. The engine itself doesn't pick sides. It just generates possibilities from both. And we, as a species, are continuously choosing which dream to feed. Finally, we reach Section 5, Authors of the Future, Library of Worlds. This is the true climax of our journey, where we uncover the core message of the archive. Every world is dreamed twice, once in imagination, once in reality. What a powerful reminder. It tells us that our collective imagination isn't just some whimsical fantasy. It is the literal blueprint from which all future societies are built. Governments, laws, incredible technologies, every single one of them began as a story, as an agreement between people. True liberation comes when we realize the battle for the future is quite literally a battle for imagination. Moving past the final staircase of the archive, we finally shed our attachments to these dogmatic final truths. We realize that no single story is ever going to be large enough to contain all of existence. And so we arrive here, beyond the last story, staring at a completely blank page. But this isn't some terrifying emptiness. It symbolizes infinite, empowering responsibility. You see, this journey was never about finding one final definitive answer. It was about us waking up and becoming conscious participants in the ongoing act of storytelling. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this ultimate, highly provocative question to chew on. Which futures become more likely when we tell certain stories? Think about it. When you look at the narratives you constantly repeat about yourself, about society, about the world at large, what exact reality are you helping to dream into existence? Take some time to reflect on your own power as a conscious author in this beautiful, unfolding mystery. The dice are still in the air, the future remains unwritten. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.